Let me at 'em!
Well, there it is. Hello there, my name is Witty and welcome to the Warcraft 3 Battle.net revamp series. This is the first of what will hopefully be quite a few indeed, where I will be looking over many of the Warcraft 3 maps that may have been in the ladder pool, perhaps they weren't in the ladder pool, but they certainly aren't in the ladder pool currently, that could be added to the ladder pool. So recently we had a change to Warcraft 3 where the maps were changed, and a lot of people welcomed this change, even though many of the 1 versus 1 maps were pretty awful. The 4 versus 4 maps were certainly interesting. And Blizzard decided to revert the changes rather swiftly after a fair amount of negative feedback from the forums. So they suggested that they want to look into updating the map pool still, but they haven't got around to it yet. So I'm hoping that videos like this might help to encourage them to do so. And if you have any opinions or thoughts, then feel free to let them know in the comments section below how much you want to see new maps in the Warcraft 3. So we're starting off with this map called Blasted Lands. So what I'm going to be doing, I believe, is probably starting off with the 4 versus 4 random team maps, since I believe this is probably, to be fair, the most popular series in Warcraft 3 ladder currently at the moment. This is the official Battle.net ladders series. I believe 4 versus 4 RT gets the most action, it's where the most people go to play and have fun, and there's the vast majority of strategies that are just waiting to be unlocked. And hopefully we can revamp these maps in such a way that we can have so much potential with whatever race we're playing. You want to do something, hell, you can try it out and perhaps succeed with it, which is essentially the motto of almost all of my strategies that I perform on my YouTube channel. So let's have a look at Blasted Lands, the first of our 4 versus 4 maps. So first things first, I really like this map. It has massive potential. I've seen it in a free for all situation, and it was very good there, but I don't see why it can't be changed just a little bit to fit into 4 versus 4 RT. So as you can see, you've got 8 players, as you would expect in a 4 versus 4 RT type of game, and this is not to say that this can't be added to the 4 versus 4 arranged team as well, but I just refer to RT since that's the main player type or game type that I play. So you have 2 players next to each other, 2 players next to each other, and so on and so on. Now what I would really like to see from this map is alternate spawning positions. So for example, let me indicate that when you start off, maybe your first game on this map, all 4 of you on your team begin in this position. Perhaps the next time that you play Blasted Lands, all 4 of you spawn in this position, and then you are fighting towards the right. So therein lies a lot of different potential strategies just based on your spawn position, and it shouldn't break the balance of the map too much since each player and the team has the same sort of amount of mines and things to access. Now there are a number of things that this map does right and a number of things this map does wrong if we are to transform it into a 4 versus 4 random team map. Let's have a look at the map description just to sort of work out what it is trying to be. It's suggested as a 2 versus 2 versus 2 versus 2, which is definitely very apt, or a 4 versus 4. It doesn't claim to be a free-for-all map, but it does work as a free-for-all map as I've seen it. The barrens are littered with gold mines and heavily populated with centaur. Team up and don't bother leaving your base until you're prepared for a bloody conflict. So this suggests that perhaps there is a lot of camping going on. I'm not a big fan of camping and stuff like that, so we could make some changes to the map to make it a little bit more difficult for players to just tower up and sit behind those walls. So let's take a look at this. Right. So if we're going to start from the top left position and assume that we're spawning as, say for example, the green player here. Now, if this is a 4 versus 4 game, you're not going to have any access to these mobs, so we're going to ignore these mobs. And the spawn positions are fine. The trees in the middle, they're okay. Perhaps mercenary camp? That could work. I feel like there could be more creeps on this map. Now, it is pretty littered with creeps, but I think in a 4 versus 4 RT map situation, it's always nice to have so many more options, so much more to do, because it's quite frank that you often get bored, and then if you haven't got a strong ally or the enemy is camping heavily, you find that you can't do anything for ages and it gets a little bit dull, and I like to be doing something all the time. Now, both players are definitely very, you know, spoiled with a gold mine, so you've pretty much almost got a guaranteed gold mine. So if we look at the creeps, they're actually really pretty much bang on. Level 2 permanent item, that's perfectly fine. Level 1 power up item, that goes the same for this creep camp here. That's perfectly acceptable. It's pretty easy creep camp to do. You can set up a gold mine very easily. So the idea between, well, on this map seems to be to get yourself at a secured expansion and defend, or at least sort of like build up for a strong enough army so that you can break through the enemy's defenses. Now, the green creep camps nearby are just as good. Level 1 permanent item. That's perfectly acceptable for a few little centaurs. But what I might like to see is maybe another creep camp similar to this. Another green creep camp. Doesn't necessarily have to be there. Could be here on your way around. Just a little bit extra something to do, just in case you run out of creeps. So that's fine. They work on a lot of levels. So again, you would just add them up there as well. Obviously, I'm only going skimming over this because it's just sort of showing the potential. Now, this creep camp is fine. Level 4 charged item, and the level 2 power up item, that's perfectly fine indeed. I am not a big fan of this taking up so much space. So what you could do is, if you didn't want the creep camp there, you could just sort of like bring this down a little bit, make it a little bit more as to what it realistically should be. So just cut that off a little bit. This is just for argument's sake. So that would purely be, if you want that expansion, that is one of the most secure expansions you can get in this game, because the cliff bit is facing the enemy, so it's much harder for the enemy to realistically get there unless they're attacking it by air, so they have to come all the way around up here in between all of your bases if you were spawning in this position. And again, if you were spawning in the top left and the bottom left position, you would still have this base that you could sort of conquer between your enemy. So you could fight for this spot here, maybe put some towers there and defend and push from here, which makes me want to put perhaps a ramp, a secondary ramp, a tinier ramp up here. So this is just very makeshift, as I can't really go and change the entire map, but you're going to get like a rough idea if it will let me do it. There we go. So you've got a very small ramp coming up here, very small indeed, perhaps a little bit larger than that, but again, it's got to give me a little bit more leeway. So if we increase one spot, I don't want to spend all day just revamping the map, but if we increase one spot and just increase that ramp just a little bit more, there you go. You can see there's a little bit more access spot into this base, but the main access spot would be a large ramp here, and that's nearby the gold mine. So the gold mines aren't super secure, but at the same time, when you're getting your gold mine, you can always just put enough towers around here to sort of like, you know, protect yourself from potential enemies. Depending, if they're from the left, then you just put towers here and you're really safe. If they're from underneath, then you're really safe. But if you have this alternate ramp to access the base with, and you've got a back ramp here, so that's fine. We'll leave the back ramp because it's very unlikely people are going to put towers at the back there, and if they do, then that's obviously not going to defend them from the top. The problem is when you've got this linear access point, and it can be very easily towered up, and then the game becomes very dull. So what I would almost definitely suggest is for siege to be potentially more powerful, and to not even have it's kind of difficult to do this, but let's have a look and see if we can pull this one off. Right. So what I kind of want to do is get rid of this whole ramp here, but I'm not going to be able to do it very very well at all. So yeah, let's have a look. I've got to think about what I'm trying to do here. Oh no, damn it. Okay, I just accidentally saved the map, so boom, I'm going to have to reinstall Warcraft 3. Fantastic. I imagine that's going to happen quite a lot of times. Thankfully, this map isn't on the ladder yet, so we don't have to worry about that just yet. But anyway, my point is that to get rid of this cliff area here, no cliff. This is basically the same level as this ground over here. Now, I'm not a big fan of just little cliffs anyway, but just get rid of this cliff. I know there's got to be an access point at some point, or the cliff's got to meet up somehow, but I don't like this. What I would like is for the gold mine on the outer rim here, if players were there, here, and here, to just be trees. So if the enemy does have siege, they can just simply destroy the trees and get access. Whereas you can destroy the trees, but you still have to go up this freaking ramp, which could be protected by towers. So I don't like that. Now this is, without me revamping the map entirely, it's kind of hard to show exactly what I mean. But basically my main points are widen the ramps, make it harder to camp, more creep camps, definitely. I like this creep camp here, that's perfectly fine. So we've got a level 4 charged item. That's something for people to fight. I have a mercenary creep camp. That's fine. So what you could do is have the goblin laboratory here. However, I think that should be swapped. So the mercenary camp should be in between the bases, and the goblin laboratory should be in the middle. Because if you have the goblin laboratory too quickly, enemies that are attacking you, and if they're already doing quite well, could just pick up sappers and then just literally walk straight to your base and do some devastating damage. Yeah, that's fun, but it's a little bit overpowered. So probably best to have the mercenary camp here and get rid of a whole ton of these trees and have a little creep camp where, you know, you've got yourself a fun little well, we want this, that over there, and this over here, and then you want a similar creep camp like this, perhaps a bunch of boars or something like that around here. Obviously if you need to chop more trees down, that's fine, or pull this gold mine more out towards this area so that way the creeps don't interfere too much with your path towards the gold mine. Whatever works, but you get the idea. I think that needs to be added because it's lacking a little bit when it comes to sort of shops or, you know, buildings to interact with. Now, because this is actually a Reign of Chaos map, it definitely needs a tavern, so you could simply put a tavern, let's see, like here, and a tavern here. The reason why I'm putting it there is because I actually want to, again, much like some of these bits, I want like more creeps here. So this is just for argument's sake. We just go to neutral hostile, pick up a bunch of murlocs, for example. You'd have a few creep camps and a few creeps like this. They're not going to be air ones, they would be ground ones, but a few things scattered around here, a little bit of debris, a little bit more enclosure, more things to fight versus. Because that's just wasted space. You don't need the trees here. You've got plenty of trees in here, and if not, then you can clutter some more trees elsewhere along the outskirts. So there's always some sort of trees to get to. But even then, again, you could just have trees around the outer rims here, focusing a bit more on that and pull this out just a little bit more. It's easy enough to do. Now, what I didn't like was this middle bit. I like it and I don't like it. I feel like it takes up too much space. There's 2 gold mines there. That's great. That's, again, another thing to fight over, depending on your position and where you're spawning. Fantastic. But what are all these trees doing here? Boom. Boom. Now, again, I don't like this ramp. How am I getting rid of this ramp? I'm going to have to look at the editor. It's been a while since I last used the editor. And as you can see, I could have done a better, quicker job. But the idea would be just to narrow this up a little bit more. You know. There'd be a little ramp going up here. You get the idea. It won't necessarily work for me perfectly unless I line it up exactly. But you're going to get a rough idea of what I'm trying to do here. So we could basically make this a lot more personal and closer. And that way you've got the 2 dedicated to each other. But still a fair bit of distance, so you could still be contesting over it. But it could change. That doesn't have to be anything. What I do want to see on this map, and I think is a really good map for it if you're going to have a lot of sort of team fights or a building, or you know, something that will basically change things a lot, is the Fountain of Health and a Fountain of Mana. Now I might be going a little bit crazy with a whole ton of stuff here, but I honestly think this would make the map, this is kind of what I want to see in maps that would come back, or if they were to be revamped, you know, just make it a lot more challenging, a lot more things to do. People like stuff to do, they don't like getting bored or running out of stuff or having these stalemate situations. We want more stuff to create. We want more powerful heroes. That makes the game. It makes it a lot of fun. So, yes, Fountain of Health, bunch of creeps around it. Probably a level 5 drop maximum, whether that's a permanent item or a charged item. And then a bunch of tomes. Nothing too special because you're already getting the for access to the Fountain of Health. Now, the reason why I want something like this over here is because, again, even though with some of the changes I'm basically asking for, you can still have this issue with the the towers sort of making the map very stalematey, so we don't want that. So by having a fountain of health or a fountain of mana, depending on whether you go necromancers and statues and whatever, caster road, for mana's going to be powerful for then just taking your army and pushing against the enemy, or if you've got a bunch of knights, grunts, tauren, frostworms, heavy, strong units, then the fountain of health, push against the enemy. And again, if you're spawning on the left hand side, this is going to make it a little bit more interesting. Like, you got fountain of health on your side, they got fountain of mana on their side. Should you change your strategy up to focus more on units that benefit from mana, since it's going to be closer to you? Or should you go for units on health? Now that's a curious point, and it can always be changed, but I like the idea of this sort of like mixing people's ideas up and how they might play on this map. How the teams might approach the map is what we want, basically. So again, this serves as a sort of point where the players, say for example the top team's doing really well against the bottom team, but they just can't break through because they're being annoying as hell with like siege units and lots and lots of towers, and it's just, even though they're doing a great job, they've got good unit composition, they can't really realistically break through without losing more than it's worth. They could keep doing hit and run guerrilla style tactics and benefit from the fountain of health, or perhaps if they're undead and they've got like spells and abilities to benefit from, then fountain of mana. That kind of approach basically is what I would like to see, because I do feel like this map could be very stalematey with all of these little cliffs here. So open up the ramps a little bit more, fill up the map with more creeps, no problem at all. You can fit them in quite easily. Obviously I'll do a much better job of it if I was actually properly revamping this map, but it's just a little brief look is what this is supposed to be, and this is probably going to be the longest video of this series, because what I want to do is just really briefly go over this. I don't want to spend too much time, because you could spend all day doing this, but you have a big ramp in the middle, big ramp in the middle, or perhaps not even have this cliffed up at all. Just have this all the same level, and that's perfectly fine. Not everything has to be cliffed up. I get it's the Barrens and there's lots of cliffs and stuff like that, but it doesn't have to be. Not for balance reasons. This could all be purely just the same level, and just have trees just to sort of fill in those sort of blockable gaps. But trees are fantastic because they can be dealt with flame strike, earthquake, death and decay. I know there's a late game spell, so you're not that so likely with those ones, but there's siege units that can take care of them pretty easy. Mountain giants, you name it, trees, ancients of war, whatever floats your boat. The only thing that I don't think needs to be on this map is the marketplace. I don't think the marketplace fits very well on this map. I think if you have enough creeps, like I'm suggesting, enough things to interact with, and the fountain of health and fountain of mana makes it so that the players can really engage with each other a lot on this map, you don't really need the marketplace. The only thing that I didn't really mention was that the creeps also drop amazing items on this map. I mean, I did mention that earlier, but I didn't mention it enough. Level 6 charged item, fantastic. Don't know if I went over the ones in the middle. Level 6 permanent item, I really like that. Just don't have too many of them, but a couple, yeah. Since this is going to be 8 people in the game, you know, just a couple of these items is only going to go to a couple of these players, potentially one of the players if they're very greedy, and it can really make a big difference in the late game. You know, you could get down to just hero wars, and then that, you know, Khadgar's gem of health, the extra bit of health when you're Tauren Chief, and just keeps him alive long enough to hit level 6, he gets reincarnation, it just turns the game, who knows. These things need to be in there. So the items are great on this map. I've not got a problem with the items, and typically a lot of the older maps I've been looking at, I've thought, oh dear, these items do not match up with current meta. This one is actually quite up to date, and it's not even a Frozen Throne map. So obviously you'd have the taverns here, like I suggest. They don't have to be in that position, they just have to be in between the two bases that both, you know, all players can access. So, like I say, open up the ramps, maybe have this whole thing one level, the same level as this as well. It's not even ramped. That's not even up. You don't even go upper ground on that. The only things that are upper ground is the starting bases, this little bit here by the laboratory, and the gold mine at the back here. Since it's such a sort of secure gold mine, that's fine. It's like a one-off, and then you got like the more risky ones in the middle, I would say. They don't need this ramp. Get rid of the ramp. Entirely get rid of all of this little bit here. I don't want it, because these are fine being where they are. Because if you get the ramp there and then the players secure it and then they build towers there again, I don't like that. It causes these stalemate situations. It's not fun. Add the mercenary camp. Add a few more creeps in from here to here. You can see it fills up the map a little bit more. It clutters it, yes, but it gives you more to do, and you will appreciate it in the long run. Fountain of Health, yes. Fountain of Mana, yes. Adds different gameplay styles. Could be an issue with balance, I agree, but perhaps that could be sorted out through further planning on how to revamp this map exactly. But otherwise, I really, really like this map, and I hope you like this map too. And if we had these changes to the map, I think it's a very strong map without the changes, but with these changes, obviously updating it to the Frozen Throne, chucking in the mercenary camp, you know, changing it, the balance as such, so that we can actually sort of penetrate the bases without being so heavily punished by mass towering people, because people do that in 4 versus 4R2. It just prolongs the game and slows it down and, you know, makes it more dull. So you want things to be fast, action-packed, people to learn how to play, how to use the units that they have access to. So that's what we want. And hopefully you want that as well. So if you like this series, or what I'm trying to do with this series, and you want to see more of it, then thumbs up the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this. Let Blizzard know, maybe share it with them on social media, wherever they might be for Warcraft 3 these days. I don't think there is an @Warcraft 3 on Twitter, but who knows. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will be planning to do more. So at the moment I'm going to be focusing on all of the 4 versus 4RT maps. So the next one in line should be Blood Venom. So we've got Battleground, that already exists on ladder, and I'm quite happy with how that is, so I don't necessarily need that one changed. So I'm not going to go and change Battleground, because I think that's actually a very good map, and it still fits into the current meta. Blasted Lands is this one, and then we'll be moving on to Blood Venom Falls next. Alright then guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm WTii. Take care, have a good day, I'll see you later.